Hi, it's Dwayne from District Terra. What I've decided to do is a couple of short videos with some pictures. If I've got videos, I'll be using them, of just like the process of some of the builds that we've done in the past. Just sort of a recap through them, some of the ideas we've had, some of the processes we went through, things that worked, things that didn't work, just so you guys can get an idea of sort of what goes into a board that we make, and hopefully give you guys some ideas as well about how to make some of your own stuff. So the first one we're starting off with is the Slaan Stadium, which we built for Pax last year. This was to sort of show off Blood Bowl, essentially. So there was a lot of work with obviously getting the pitch right, making sure the pitch is numbered right, well not numbered right, but the lines are correct and all that kind of stuff. So there was a lot of back and forth making sure all that information was correct, because the last thing we want to do is end up being a block or a line or a section short and having to scrap the whole thing, which was not an idea I was looking forward to. The introduction out of the way, I'm just going to put up some pictures of sort of our progress. If, as I said before, if there's videos, I'll put videos up. But most of the stuff I've been taking has been pictures. So the first one we've got here is actually just a basic layout. None of this is glued down. This was just so I can get an idea of sizing, what would be doable for the board, what wouldn't be doable for the board. And I had some of this I think packing polystyrene lying around, and I thought, well, it's a good thickness, I'll use that to sort of get an idea of what we're doing. Next picture was just trying to add some detail to that. Obviously we wanted a throne, so the idea behind this was obviously a Blood Bowl board. It was a stadium that was dedicated to, I think Slaan is how you pronounce it, so the Slan or God or whatever they call it for the lizard men. So basically wanted to have it with him having like a Slan version of or a lizardman version of a like corporate box on his end, and then obviously like on the other side just like dregs where all the peasant lizardmen sit or whatever, the ones that can't afford the fancy tickets. So down each side was going to be dugouts, and on each corner was going to be like a tall totem that was going to depict Blood Bowl stuff. So I made up a couple of characters in like lizardman style football gear, which ended up being really good, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So here's the first one. This is a running back. I think number 89 was actually the number of the customer's running back, or runner, I think they call it. So I thought this was really interesting way to sort of pay homage to that with the big blocks down the side. Next one, we used like the classic sort of Aztec snake iconography. On the side there you can see with the triangles, the swirls, the big blocky sort of face with the teeth, and then we've started, as you can see, we've started doing brickwork on the sides where the dugout's going to be. Next picture is just another side of that. I think everything was very close to getting glued down at this stage. I wanted to make a lot of the stuff first, because getting into the nooks and crannies with the pens and pencils to line up those brickwork was going to be Next photo we have is two of the totems fully done. So we've got here, I think that's probably just going to be a blocker on the left, and then the sort of the icon on the other side. I'm not sure what this guy is, but I'm pretty sure when I looked up like lizardman on Google, that helmet sort of came up, and I thought that worked really well in with this board. On the other side of these, we have the quarterback. He's the one with the football doing the throwing, and we have the Slan fella himself, which I thought was a good way to sort of pay homage back to the stadium in itself, because the stadium's sort of his and he's honouring it. The next picture we have is me trying to get to grips with the layout of all this. Had a lot of trouble in the past doing line work on line work on line work, and doing a grid pattern was something that I knew was going to be a little bit of trouble. So I wanted to spend a little while trying to make sure that what I was attempting to do was doable, and if so, how do I make it more interesting than just being big plates of grid. As you can see in the corner, we've got the throne happening up there, so just brickwork on those base tiles. Next picture we have is the grid going down. So basically I used a ruler. I think it was what I used was a piece of foam card that was cut, I think, just a little bit bigger than a regular Blood Bowl size square, and I basically gridded up all that blue foam I've got there. So the foam I bought from eBay, because it's I didn't have tools to actually cut any of my own at this stage, not in thin slices like that. So a fair bit of that went into this project. And yeah, basically me gridding it up, I've used a couple of different heights there to sort of make the field a little bit more interesting. Sort of that pattern you might see when you're looking at like Aztec, and I can tell here that in the next photo we've glued down the stadium, so those end pieces there are glued down. You can probably see that the one where the Slaan guy sits is a little bit higher. That's again to give him a little bit more prestige. So once the tiles were laid down, I think they were liquid nails down. I trust liquid nails to hold things a lot better than I do PVA. And there we have the basics of the board. Down the sides, I was planning to have turn counters and that kind of thing. So this was just me sort of working out the layout of those. And obviously for the bleachers, that's what they call them. And for the bleachers themselves, I was using just blue foam laid on top of that cheap polystyrene, and I was just gonna cover it up with a little bit of plaster and texture paint and stuff to sort of hide those ugly corners, which you'll see later on. The next picture is a grass panel, I guess. I think it's a meter by meter, or maybe a couple of foot by a couple of foot panel that I bought from Bunnings. I think it was $15, and it's probably going to last me a long time because I still have a lot of it left. Basically, it's a big plastic grid underneath, and these are all just wedged onto the top of it, so you can just peel them off. You can spray them if you need to. I was quite happy with the colors of them, and they fit into the board aesthetic anyway, so I didn't really feel that was necessary, but the idea was still there. Next photo, what we've got here is me getting through all the grid finally. Starting to put down the dugouts, starting to glue down the bleachers and the turn counters and stuff like that. I left gaps on either side. I have that vision of both teams coming from either side before the game. Next photo is me realizing a very big mistake. As you can see there, the grid is offline. And I went through a lot of ideas to try and fix this up. I'm not sure even how it happens, because I'm pretty sure the whole process I was trying to keep track of everything, make sure it was all set to light. Somehow it got away from me. And in the end, what we ended up doing was literally ripping them out on one side. I determined one side that was better, and we ripped them out. And because of that, in the next photo, you can see me putting a hard grid on the actual MDF to make sure that when I put down these new pieces, they will fit in, and they will fit in with the board across. As you can see, a little bit high on the top, but the tools there, I had literally the pen, the knife, and the foam card, so nothing too complicated. Next photo is the throne. I've added a couple of little resin skulls to it, and a couple of skulls from the Games Workshop skull kit at the front, and a lot of little totems, I guess you call them, or slabs. I don't know what they'd actually use them for, but yeah, they're there regardless. Scoreboard is next. Went for a really simple design. There's a lot of things I could have done with it, but I just wanted to keep this simple. Again, I've got those stone slabs around the sides. They'll obviously get like pictures and stuff on them, and that's where it'll carry on from. This is where it's starting to really come together. So I've done the brickwork pattern on the lower section of the turn counter. I've fixed in the scoreboard with dowels. So I've actually drilled out holes a little bit smaller than the dowel itself, into the foam underneath, and then I've glued dowels into the legs of the scoreboard. So I was worried about that getting ripped off or knocked off, because it's very easy for people while playing a game to sort of turn their arms too far and knock bits and pieces like that off, and it's not easy to replace. So being foam and being polystyrene underneath, if that was to happen with enough force, it would have sent a big chunk of the board coming out or just completely destroyed the scorecard. So I wasn't going to let that happen. I wanted to have little it's a kind of cardboard, like a thin cardboard cut out with numbers on them to represent the scores of both teams, as you can see, the home and away. That piece of card that's glued on the back there is so when you put those scorecards down, they don't sit exactly flush. So you've got a little bit of a lip to sort of pull them off and replace the numbers as you go through the game. This was the scatter counter or scatter marker. Basically just straight ripped off the Mayan calendar with a little bit of like football embellishment. So I've got in here like a couple of hidden like plays and stuff like that, like taken from like traditional NFL football stuff. So the next one we've got is finally, now that all the base work is done, all the little white bottle on the side there again on the left, use that to squeeze into all the corners and mesh those corners together, so we've got like a nice clean looking joint. Like these things have been there for a while and they've sort of built up over time. I've also got casts there of some Lizardman shields, I think for 2 different sets, great cold ones and maybe just regular old Lizardman. But the idea as well is these were sort of Hall of Fame Lizardmen that used to play Blood Bowl a long time ago, or like that kind of stuff. So that was the idea behind that, and they were going to be hung up underneath where the Slaan Lizardman Lord sits. Next one is, now that we've got the corners are all meshed in together, you can see the turn counter is up, the turn counters are on, so I've gone 1 to 8. I actually realised way too late that they should have been the other way around. So when you're playing on either side, your counter's near you. It's still playable because you can reach over. It's not a very wide board, so you can reach over and use your the tokens on the other side. It's just probably a little bit more confusing that way. So if there was anything I could have changed, it would have been that, but there's no time frame for that to happen, so it didn't. We went through with a classic texture paint that you see on a lot of our boards, so this stuff is amazing. I'm probably going to have to do a video or something on it eventually because number one, I'm running out. Number two, I get a lot of questions about it. So all those little blue patches, they're all just texture paint that's been put on there to sort of give it more of a lived-in feel, sort of outdoorsy. This one's more of like a ceremonial mask, I'd guess. A lot of the straight line work and stuff. Not a lot of big embellishments on it. Wanted to keep that kind of simple because I was kind of running out of ideas, to be honest. So that's it for part 1, where we covered the building and the construction of the project. In part 2, we'll be discussing and showing off the painting. So stay tuned for that. We'll be putting some updates in shortly once we edit the video and do all the kind of background work. We'll be putting that up as well. So stay tuned for that. Like and subscribe. Thanks.